Let's welcome in NFL expert Ryan Wilson to talk about this injury. That was a big win for the Seahawks. This was the one glaring bad part about it. Ryan, not a ton of hope for the Seahawks this season, but this is just really devastating news for them.
Absolutely. We saw the replay coming in when he injured that, Jamal Adams, and it looked awkward at the time, like it was just a typical tackle when he took down Russ Wilson in the backfield. But clearly he was in incredible pain at the time. He limped off the field, and now we're finding out that it's a torn quad, and he's heading to injured reserve, and it looks like it'll be a season-ending injury. Josh Jones, the former second-round pick of the Packers, came in to replace Adams, had 7 tackles on a night in a game in which the Seahawks defense played at an exceedingly high level. And of course, we know how well Geno Smith played. But for one night, they were able to get by without Jamal Adams. We'll see how it looks going forward. Next up, they're at San Francisco to face the 49ers team that somehow found a way to lose to the Bears in Week 1.
Ryan, it's always unfortunate when we see these players who battle injury after injury after injury. Jamal Adams back in 2020 was dealing with a groin injury, broken fingers. Last year, torn labrum. He had that in Week 13. Now this. I mean, just how frustrating must this be for a player of his caliber?
Not only that, Amanda, but a player who, as you mentioned, got paid. He was the highest paid safety at one point. Now he trails Derwin James and Minkah Fitzpatrick. But the question then becomes, is he worth that money? And unfairly or not, Jamal Adams has struggled to stay on the field, as you see the graphic there, just ahead of Harrison Smith and Justin Simmons in terms of average annual value. And he has struggled to stay on the field. And if you're making that sort of money and you're not contributing between the white lines, that's an issue. And I'm sure that's an issue that Pete Carroll and GM John Schneider will have to take up at some point. But Jamal Adams wanted out of New York when he was with the Jets. He got traded for some first-round picks in Seattle, and he made an impact early on, and then the injuries started to become an issue. The knock on him always has been that he plays better closer to the line of scrimmage, but he proved not only was he able to get sacks, but he also at times could excel in coverage. Now, the other issue becomes, as these injuries pile up, how does that affect his athleticism, his playmaking ability, his physicality? And those are things we'll have to judge down the line because, as it appears, Jamal Adams' 2022 season is done after one game.
So looking back, you mentioned, I want to go back to that trade. They traded a couple first-round picks, 2 for him, did make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. You're the Seahawks looking back on that trade. How would you grade it as of right now?
Well, I mean,
you wouldn't lose a way to know.
Say incomplete. Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. It's if we're being just a harsh grader, it's probably a C- because Jamal Adams hasn't been on the field. This has nothing to do with how he's played. It's the fact that he hasn't been available, given the money tied up in paying him. You could use that money for 3, 4, 5 other players. So I will give it an incomplete. But if we're being a harsh grader, I'll give it a C- because he just hasn't been on the field, and that's what you need. Now you look at the top of that list there. By the way, highest safety pass rushing grade according to PFF, Derwin James, a guy who has also struggled to stay on the field, but when he's healthy, he's an absolute game changer, and that's why he's currently the highest paid safety in the NFL. Hopefully Jamal Adams is able to get back to full health and be the type of player he once was. But as we sit here, this is a huge loss for a Seattle defense that has virtually lost their quarterback. They'll find ways to pick it up. Geno Smith will have to continue to play well, but in terms of losing Jamal Adams after a few quarters of play, it's not great, not ideal for a Seattle team heading to San Francisco.
Big contract, big risk. Ryan Wilson, we appreciate it here talking about the breaking news. Jamal Adams now out for the season, going to need surgery on a torn quad. Ryan, we appreciate it. All right, so speaking of the Seahawks schedule there, they did get that win against the Broncos, hosting them on Monday Night Football to kick off Week 1. No Jamal Adams, tough road ahead as they now travel down to San Francisco for Week 2.
You want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game, the highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.